and I was glad to hear you talk about your bucket list and things you still wanted to do. What place in this world would you like to visit that you've not visited?
Everywhere. It's funny. I was getting my hair done this morning, and I had an older lady in the chair next to me, and she and I had an awesome conversation. She's traveled the world. She has seen, and she's done solo trips too. She was a really cool lady, and I said, when I grow up, I want to be you. But I don't know. We were just talking about that this morning. I really would love to see Mongolia, and more of Europe, I guess. I want to go everywhere.
Yeah.
I just need money and time.
Well, yeah. So we need that. We need 75 miles to become a movie, like a blockbuster movie, so that you can then get all this money and you'll be. There you go. I want to welcome you to another episode of Media from the Heart. My name is Ruth Hill, and I'm your host. And today, I am so honored to be able to bring you this very special episode with a dear author friend of mine. Yes, she is a dear author friend now, even though we only just met. But Robyn VanDerSys, really an amazing woman, born in Washington State, so that was actually why I reached out to her originally. But you're going to find that she is so much fun. It was a tell-all. There was nothing that was off the table as far as what we talked about. A whole bunch of things. She gave out some awesome advice, told about stories, dreams, bucket lists, gave some fantastic advice. So be sure to listen till the end. But for now, without any further ado, it is my honor and privilege to bring you Robyn VanDerSys. I want to welcome you to another incredible episode of Media from the Heart. Now, it's incredible because, I'm your host. My name is Ruth Hill, but it's incredible because we have an amazing guest. That's what makes it so incredible. And I want to introduce to you guys Robyn VanDerSys. I got the name right, correct?
You did.
Okay,
yes.
Robyn VanDerSys. All right. I had to think about that for just a minute. I was just talking with her about how to pronounce her name. So it's Robyn VanDerSys.
Good job.
I am really excited to have you. Thank you for being here. It's lovely to meet you. She's a fellow Washingtonian. That excites me so much because Washingtonians have to stick together. So.
We do. I don't know. I mean, I haven't lived there now for like 18 years, but born and raised in Whatcom County.
There you go. Well, we claim you. Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to read just a little bit about Robyn. Okay. So you can, if you're not familiar with who she is, there you go. Robyn VanDerSys was born in Washington State, which is where her love for the great outdoors was born. She's lived in several different states, and in 2015 settled in the Black Hills of South Dakota with her husband and kids. Her life has consisted of one adventure to the next, including racing monster trucks in her early 20s, raising 3 strong children, riding around Mexico on her 4-wheeler while living out of a backpack, and volunteering on a chase team where her husband raced the Baja 1000. She spends her free time off-roading and hiking the many trails of the Black Hills, and also enjoys traveling and having as many adventures as humanly possible. She's also an author. We didn't really get into that too much, but we will. Whoa. Well, talk about a bio. My goodness. You and one of my audience members need to get together. Paula Cooley is one of my audience members, and I know she'll come on and have some questions for you. But she has had some amazing adventures.
Love it.
In her life too. So, well, Robyn, that is quite the bio here. You sound like you are all about adventure.
I am. I would say that's kind of my life's motto the past maybe 7 or 8 years is just, and maybe it's because I'm getting older and I'm realizing that is more important than material things, but that's my husband and I, that's our motto. We're just like living life to the fullest and just trying to have as much fun as we can. So.
Wow. Well,
yeah.
I love that because sometimes as people get older, they think that the adventure, all the excitement stops, and they just, they want to stay at home and watch TV, go, watch movies, just sit in their homes. And I'm not saying that there isn't a place for that. I mean, of course. And I would never put anybody down who wants to do that, or really physically that's what they're doing, because I know there are people as they get older, there could be all sorts of reasons. But I love the fact that you are going out and doing things now, and not just sitting there and saying, well, I'm getting older, I'm just going to sit at home and twiddle my thumb.
We're probably getting more adventurous the older we get, honestly. The reason I wrote my first book, it was actually a bucket list thing. I'm like, about 5 years ago, I started checking things off the bucket list, and started checking off the easy ones first. And then one of the things on the bucket list was to write a book. And because when I was in school, I was always told by my teachers that I should write. Of course, never did anything with it. And so just for the heck of it, I wrote a book. And then I happened to be following this other author that writes in the same genre that I do. And he started up a publishing company. And so for the heck of it, I submitted it, and he accepted it. And then it's just kind of snowballed from there. That started off as kind of an adventure thing. And then here we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
So see, you've already answered what my next question was going to be. So there you go. I mean, that's great. No, I love that. You make my task much easier that way. No, that's great. And isn't it interesting how so often when we're younger and in school, we'll have that teacher, we'll have that person in our lives, they'll say, oh, you should do this, or you're really talented in this. And then we just don't pursue it for whatever reason, whether I mean, there's lots of reasons, but we get older, and we so often let those childhood dreams go. I understand, because I did that too. So
my 6th grade teacher at Linden Christian was Mr. Choker, Art Choker, and he was kind of one of those teachers that kind of connected with the nerds or whatever, like I was. And we had, one of our projects was to write a short book, right? And so I wrote this book called Shirley and the Gumballs, and I still have it. I should have had it here with me to show you, but he gave me an A+ and wrote in the back, you should keep this fine story. And he was really the primary teacher that encouraged me to write. I had a few in high school also. But they were more like, yeah, you should write for a newspaper or whatever. And I don't like to write if I'm told to write. I like to come up with my own ideas. And so I guess maybe that's why I never pursued it as a career or whatever. But yeah, he was a huge influence for me finally doing this at 47 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, I thought about him all these years later,
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I love that. I love the fact that you still remember his name. You have all those memories all these years later. And I'm with you. I understand there are teachers that I can remember that have inspired me, and I still think about them, and with doing all the things that I'm doing now. So
isn't it crazy? And you always just have a couple that just always stick out in your mind. You're like, man, you'll just never forget that one teacher that you connected with, or maybe there's a handful of them. I had some good ones, but he was probably the one that, was my favorite looking back. He was a great teacher. He really, just some people are called to be teachers, and he was a really good one. And he's since passed. Otherwise, I would have loved to have reached out and said, hey, guess what, Mr. Choker? I had a book published, 2 books now, but he's passed away. So.
Oh, wow. I understand that. Well, that's just neat to hear that story, and to hear that you didn't, maybe you gave up on it for a while, or didn't think about it, or didn't pursue it. And then you get to a point in your life and it's an adventure. So you just go ahead and go for it. And now you're not probably so concerned about, well, what is everybody going to think about me? I mean, I'm not saying that never enters your mind, but when we're younger, it's like, well, what are people going to think if I do this or do that, or whatever the case is? So.
Well, just life, like we've had 3 kids, and I stayed home the majority of my kids' lives when they were in school. And went on to work kind of part-time jobs or whatever. And now my youngest is a freshman in high school. So it's just, you're freed up to kind of maybe pursue some of those things that you wanted to do. Like another thing on my bucket list was I wanted to go to Scotland my whole life. And I did that a few years ago. And it's just easier when your kids are older and, more independent. And my husband's been an awesome encourager for me to go do this stuff. He's checked things off his bucket list as well. And we're just having fun.
Well, you both sound like you are well matched.
Yeah, we probably push each other too much.
Hey, that's the best kind of relationship is because you're pushing each other to live your best lives, to just go for it and to be supportive and that's amazing. Man, so if you don't mind my asking,
ask away.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. So
my life is an open book, girlfriend.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about how you met your husband?
Yeah, so he grew up in Port Angeles, and his family were loggers back in the day, and they had a big sawmill and logging company called Corey and Sons. And then in the late 80s, when the logging industry sort of started tanking, they sold that, and then his family moved to Whatcom County, where I lived and grew up, and that's how we met. So we've lived in several different states. He works for the railroad, so we've moved around a little bit. We'd probably move around a lot more if we didn't have kids. We'd probably be gypsies. We love to move and experience new things. But so yeah, that's kind of our background. And but yeah, like I said earlier, our first probably almost 20 years of marriage was just paying the bills. We had a lot of marital problems. Just struggling in life, and then we kind of turned things around about 6-7 years ago and decided life's too short. I mean, there's more to life than paying the bills, having the house, having the nice vehicles. It's like, so we downsized. My husband stepped down at work to a less stressful position. And we've just made having fun and having adventures our priority in life now. And I can tell you our marriage is so much better. So we had to learn the hard way, but like a lot of people.
No, Robyn, that is just amazing. Yeah. I'm so glad you're telling us all this. And I know you said that you weren't a public speaker, but I think you're doing really well. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Great. Like I said, my life is an open book. There's so much more to that story than I won't care to get into because it's long and drawn out. But yeah, we've been blessed these past years, and just having moved to the Black Hills, to the we love Nebraska, but we sure missed the outdoors and the trees and all the adventure that comes with that. And just the past 6-7 years that we've been here has been really awesome. Just we've done some really cool things and just built on our marriage and having so much fun with our kids and stuff. It's been a good move for sure.
No, it's a beautiful area. I've been there a couple times and
cool,
gorgeous. I actually spent part of my I was married for a while, and so I did. We kind of had our after honeymoon when we were moving, and we spent some time. I remember going through the Black Hills and the Badlands and all that,
Mount Rushmore and everything.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And I've lived here for almost 7 years, and there's still stuff that I haven't seen. There's caves and just cool hikes and just things that I'm like, you think you've seen it all, and then somebody's like, "Oh, have you been to Knife Blade?" And you're like, "What's that?" And it's some cool hike up on this big rock formation, and it's really, for a small area, there's a lot here. It's pretty awesome here, especially in the summer. Winters are long. Winters get very old. When we get snow in May, you're not very happy. But then it'll turn around and be back to a nice summer day, and then we can go do our thing again. So, but yeah, we sure like it here.
Awesome. So you write in the apocalyptic genre, is that right?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't really necessarily consider my books to be post-apocalyptic, but they are. I call it more like a realistic current day post-apocalypse. So they're not futuristic or anything sci-fi or anything like that. The two that I've written so far. Now in the future, who knows? But so yeah, they're just like current day EMP event survival. And I apparently I write character based, I found out. And so I like to write about the relationships and the struggles, you know, between people, but also in ourselves, the struggles that we would have if all of a sudden the lights went out and the future was bleak, right? So I like to write about the feelings and emotions that would come along with everything else, the danger and everything else that comes along with that kind of situation.
So was there any inspiration as to why you chose these particular kinds of stories to tell?
Yeah, absolutely. So about 10 years ago, my mother-in-law was like, you need to read this book. It's called 1 Second After. William Forstchen is the author of it. It's now a trilogy. But it was about an EMP. So real quick, EMPs are electromagnetic pulse. They're a real threat. Actually, I read about it in the news a few months ago. They were talking about it again, that it could be a threat from Russia or China or whatever. But so it was a fictional book like I do, but he really made you think, like, what if an EMP was detonated? Anything with a computer chip is shot. So that means vehicles, electricity, you can't communicate, no communications would work. So it just puts the whole country into this mode of how do you survive, right? And so that was about 10 years ago when I read that book. It made me start going, it wouldn't hurt to have some extra food in the pantry. You know, we haven't gone full blown prepper or anything. I would love to have solar power and all that, but it just makes you think about any emergency, really. What if you guys get power outages in Washington all the time, you know, just to have some preparation of heat and food and water. So yeah, I guess ever since I read that book, I've kind of been into that thing. And I just had this vision of a young girl. How would a young girl survive an EMP? And so my first book is about this young girl that has to walk across the Black Hills by herself. And so she meets people that help her and other people that want to hurt her. And that's kind of where it started. So.
Wow. No, and that truly fascinates me. I remember, now I can't remember the name of the book, but I used to do a lot of book reviews where authors would send me a lot of different books. And
oh, cool.
And I remember the first time I read a book that was talking about, well, what if the power grid went down, and the people that, and they were focusing on the fact that that the title had something to do with the Amish, and they said, well, the Amish people would make it because they know how to live without electricity. And it was something about, they were looking to the Amish to say, okay, how can we, they're going to make it. We're not going to make it because the power grid. But I remember it was just like, man. And then I started seeing all that stuff because and it's becoming a thing. If you turn on, all the shows now are covering, at least there's one episode, all the popular shows, they'll have the power grid's down and what are we going to do? All the
survival. And I think too, with everything that's going on in the world, people are starting to think about that stuff now. Like, people are becoming more self-reliant. People are growing their own food. They're having chickens. And I don't even necessarily think people really realize that subconsciously they want to become more self-reliant. But it's kind of becoming a thing. It's great. I'm doing this self-reliance expo down in Denver the end of April. And I mean, it's a whole expo of self-defense, homeschooling, how to grow, preserve food, you name it, they're going to be there. And it's becoming a thing. And I'm really glad, because the more we can rely on ourselves, it's just better, right? You're just safer. So yeah, I think it makes people think. And I love to read reviews after someone's read my book and said that it made them think. I'm like, cool, that's what I wanted. So
yeah. Wow. Well, I was going to ask you, so when you publish, if we focus on that first book, and that was great that you're able to get it published, this publishing company was able to publish it for you and all that. But what was your experience with getting that book out there and the sales and promotion? How did that all go?
So My publisher at the time, he did most of that. I mean, I'm all about social media and using it to my advantage. So I do Instagram, of course, and Facebook. And then I just got myself out there around the Black Hills, since it's based in the Black Hills, as well as my second book. I just went out there and talked to different stores and stuff. I got it in the airport gift shop, a lot of the stores around the hills. But yeah, I mean, it was a learning thing for me, but my publisher did most of the work. But then, so I'll try to make this long story short, but then, so that was published last April. That was my first book, called 75 Miles. Then in May, June-ish, a different publisher reached out to me and said, hey, we have this series going called October Fall. It's another EMP event. The original author starts the series down in Florida, but we want other authors to come in and write about the same event, same timeline, but how it would look from different perspectives around the country. Would you be interested in writing what it would look like in the Black Hills? And I'm like, I took the summer to think about it, because I'm all about going outside. Summers are short, right? So about August, September, I said, yeah, I think I've got some ideas. I think I want to do this. Well, then in the meantime, my original publishing company folded. So now my first and second book are with Raventhorn Books, and I'm so happy. My publisher is awesome. I call him my book dad. He's great. And yeah, that's just kind of where it's gone from there. And he's been pestering me about some more. So I got to get to work.
Oh, no, that's good. Well, yeah. And it's interesting because I mean, I've talked to authors who are self-published, and then the ones that go more the route of the traditional publishing companies. And it's always interesting to hear everybody's experiences, and it sounds like you've had a really positive experience with
I have, because I have a friend, I just met him for coffee this morning. He's writing about, there was a really bad flood in Rapid City, which is part of the Black Hills, back in 72, and he was a little kid at the time. I mean, he's lucky he's alive, but he's writing an autobiography about his experience. And like, he was floating on a single wide trailer through downtown Rapid City. It was awful. But anyway, he's kind of self-publishing, and like, it sounds way more complicated than what I can handle. So I just feel blessed that I got taken on by Doomsday Press, and now Raventhorn Books, because I don't know if I could have done anything with it if I'd have self-published. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I've talked to, I'm actually in the middle. My current employer is getting ready. We've been working on a book that he's wanted to write for years. And he's like, he's like, we're not going self-publishing. We've got to get a publishing company, because that's the route he wants to go. And it makes the most in his situation, because he's got some celebrity standing. It makes perfect sense. But but I know it's one of those things of what direction to go, but I know it's a lot of work with self-publishing. I know people,
but yet, I don't want to discourage people either, because I got lucky. I got picked up by a publisher, and I'm not some awesome writer. There's much better writers out there than me that maybe don't have as much luck and can't get picked up by a publishing company. I would still tell them, go self-publish on Amazon, figure out how to do it, and do it. I mean, I've talked to so many people that are either aspiring writers that have written a book and aren't having much success or whatever. And I said, are you writing because you love it? And if that's the case, don't give up. Just get out there on social media, figure out the Amazon thing, get help if you need it. And just, I'm not any better than somebody that's had to self-publish. I'm like, I write books, I tell stories. That's all it is. So I always tell people, just because I have a publisher, it doesn't mean you shouldn't share your book with the world. Like, get it out there one way or another,
Well, Robyn, I really appreciate your humility, because you're like, well, I know there's better writers than me, which sometimes people don't want to say that.
Yeah.
I mean, just because there's that whole thing of, well, I don't want to say that because then I don't sound as good, but it's true. Isn't it true that there's always going to be somebody better than you, no matter?
Oh gosh. Yeah. I'm very open about it. I'm like, I am not some amazing writer. I can put a sentence together and I can keep you entertained. And that is about it. I write very simply. I don't write with fancy poetic sentences. I have the creative mindset of just coming up with these ideas and getting them on paper. And like I said, I am not the best writer out there. I just happen to come up with ideas that people like. So that's really all it is, you know?
Well, and you say you were lucky, but you also put the work in. You did. It's not like you just, sometimes people also have this idea of, okay, I'm going to write a book, and if it's supposed to be published, it will, and I don't have to do anything about it.
Right. Yeah. It takes a lot of, wintry Saturdays down at the coffee shop on your laptop. And, you know, like I'm working on my sequel now to 75 Miles, and I am not being very self-disciplined. Don't tell my publisher. I'm like, I've really got to sit down. I got to discipline myself to turn off my phone and all the distractions and just sit down. Yeah, you got to put the work in for sure. It's so time consuming, if nothing else. If you think about all the hours it took me to write both of these books, my second book was almost twice as long as my first. Oh, so yeah, it was a lot of work.
and it's really so much of that time, correct me if I'm wrong, so much of that time is also spent editing.
Well, yeah, and I'm lucky I don't have to do that. Okay. Apparently I write clean. I've been told I write pretty clean. The only thing that is kind of funny though, is I am stuck in the 80s of the double space. I tried to break it. My second publisher is Lee. She works very closely with Boyd, and she's like, you're double spacing. And I'm like, I cannot break that habit. She's like, don't worry about it. Just write. We'll fix it.
Oh my goodness. I know I was reading something about how you don't have to double space after a period anymore. And I'm like, what?
Nobody told me that.
I think
now it's ingrained and I can't stop. I consciously was like trying, but when I start writing, I'm just like, you know, and then I try to remember to go back and take some out, and Lee's like, just don't worry about it. We'll take care of that.
Oh my goodness. That's so, that's funny. Cause I think I just automatically do that. I took a typing class, and it was still, we did have electric typewriters.
Yes.
But it was not on a computer. These were electric typewriters.
How old are you?
I am 47.
Oh, you're my age. Okay. Well, actually, you're younger than me. I guess I'm almost 49. Yeah, you're younger than me.
Okay. Yeah, I'll turn 48 in a couple months here.
So. Okay, cool. Yeah, remember typing class and sitting in front of those computers that were like one piece with the DOS.
Yep.
Old habits are hard to break.
Yeah, because it was very clear, like, you have to do double space after the period. Double space after the period, and it just was, that was what you did. And I read that recently, that you don't have to do that, and I'm like, oh, okay. But I still do it.
Me too. Yes, exactly.
In fact, last night I was doing some editing on my employer's book, and it was coming up, and my program was saying, okay, some of these are double spaced and some of them are only one space. You need to fix it. Which way do you want to do it? And I'm like, okay, do the one space. I know that's what we're supposed to do. So it went and fixed all of them. So they were all uniform now. I thought, well,
that's good.
So I was going to ask you also, the second book, what sounds really intriguing about that. So that was, the author had already written a book in the series, and now you're writing the same. You're writing.
Yeah. It's a cool concept. So Mark Loren wrote October Fall, and he's like he's writing like crazy. But the original concept was, there's an EMP event. It takes place in Florida, which is where he lives, and the kids get involved, and it's such a cool story. Well, Boyd came up with this idea of, well, why don't we have other things going on in the country? Because in the original book, you've got the EMP happens, you've got China invading the West Coast, Russia's coming down through Alaska, and we could have all kinds of stuff going on. And Boyd would like to push this out 20, 30 years into the future after the EMP and what the country looks like. So I got lucky because I got to write about a Russian invasion here in my hometown. So we have a Air Force base about an hour east of us. And so we're like, this is the perfect location to base my book, because the Russians would be coming down, setting up their forward operating base here with the intention of taking the Air Force base once their reinforcements got here. So I had fun with that. So not only did I get to write about this, just the survival aspect of the EMP, but then now we have Russians setting up camp in our town. So yeah, I used my town name, which is Spearfish. I used all the other towns in the area, the names of those, and roads and trails and businesses. It was really fun to write from that perspective, like it's happening right here.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
In light of current events, that must even make it more. Yeah, it's like.
Yeah, I've gotten some comments lately about that. I'm like, I don't know. I was just writing what I was told.
Right. You were writing a story. You didn't know that this is going to happen. I mean, yeah, not that we didn't know there weren't issues, but I don't think we were really quite expecting all of a sudden this to happen the way that it happened. They're probably, and I'm sure people are listening who are saying, well, I knew all along, Ruth. Okay, that's fine. And that's wonderful if you knew. But I think most of us in this country have been surprised by what has suddenly happened.
Yes. Yeah. And I just, the last time there was an attack on American soil before 9/11 was Pearl Harbor, right? So just for people to think about, what if there was war on our own soil, like Red Dawn, right? That's horrifying. So it made a great storyline for me. I had a lot of fun with it. My first book was about a single character, a young girl, and my second one, I really had to push myself because I had to learn about ham radio. They wanted me to incorporate ham radio so they could connect with there will be other books where they connect all these people together, right, through ham radio. Right. So I had to learn about that. I had to learn about military stuff. And I don't delve into it too much because that's not my thing, but I had to learn basics. And then I went from a 16-year-old girl and how she would survive to now I have a community of neighbors surviving together in a neighborhood. And so it pushed me. And like I said, this one was almost twice as long. So it definitely pushed me as a writer. I've had people tell me my writing's improved tremendously, and I can kind of see it. And it's not like I'm taking classes. It's not like I'm doing anything different. I think I'm just getting used to it, just writing and just coming up with different things, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a professional writer. I didn't go to college for this. I didn't go to college, period. And never taken any writing classes. I don't have a fancy office. I sit here at my dining room table and tell stories on my laptop. That's really all it is.
No, I really love that. I love that you added that in about that you haven't gone to, you didn't go to college, you didn't take the writing courses, you did. And I love that. And I totally appreciate that because I was a teacher and I didn't, now, while I had a college degree, I didn't have an education degree. And I went kind of the backdoor method to becoming a teacher. But I love that that you said that, because it reminds us so many times we want to say, well, I can't do this because I didn't do this. I didn't go to college for this, so I can't do it. Or I didn't do this, so I can't pursue this dream over here because I'm not doing this. So I love the fact that you're telling us that, because it shows that you really can go after your dreams, and even if you don't have all the training.
Yeah, real quick example. So my husband always wanted to race the Baja 1000. Most guys that do this Ironman class, it's one guy on one bike for anywhere from 800 miles to 1,200 miles nonstop. You're on the bike for like 2 days, the dirt bike. And he always wanted to do it. Well, in 2019, he's like, I think I want to do it this year. Well, again, most people are like, well, I got to train for a year. I got to get in shape. I've got to do this, and this. He did it 45 days before the race. He signed up and decided to do it. And again, it was that mindset, that mentality of, well, why can't I go do it? Why can't I try? I don't need to have all these preparations and all these sponsors. And he was just like, nope, I think I want to do it. Let's go. And you just give it your best shot. And if you fail, so what, right? That's life. You just had a blast and you just learned something and pushed a little bit out of your comfort zone. That's how we roll over here. We just get a wild hair and we're like, yeah, let's go do that.
That's awesome. No, Robyn, I just love this, because what's been happening with my podcast, invariably, I keep attracting people just like you
cool.
Have that mindset of I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to live my best life. I don't care what everybody else says. I don't care if I fail. I'm going to go in and give it my best shot and enjoy it, because why not? Why not me? Why keep, and I love that. So because I never expected to continue to attract people like that, but that's attracting. So there you go. It's great.
Wild and adventurous people. We're the ones doing the fun stuff, right?
That's right. I love that. Oh my goodness. You are such an inspiration, honestly. What you are sharing, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you coming on and just sharing the way you have already. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I am, like I said, my life's an open book, and I don't mince words. I don't make things better than they really are. This is what you get.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, I bet there are some people who would like to ask some questions. I have no doubt. Paula, we'll just go ahead and start with you, because I know that you're ready.
Yeah, I am ready.
Go for it.
I'm really enjoying this. This is so much fun. I'm writing like crazy as you're talking, because last night we had a power outage, and I had a candle and I'm looking for a match. My husband comes out with his iPhone. That's the difference of survival in this house.
I love it, Paula.
Yeah, that's the way it is. And then also I have to say is I too double space. But I did not learn on an electric typewriter. I learned on the old stand-up typewriters.
That's even better.
Yeah. And I still have two of them, and I still go back to them. Computer is my enemy right now.
I love it. You probably handwrite letters then, don't you?
I do handwrite letters.
I'm actually
right now I call it snail mail, and I'm writing a letter to an exchange student that used to live with us back in the 80s, and I'm doing it through the mail.
That's cool.
I can feel it better. I feel something with a book. I don't want to hear it on a recording.
Right.
I want to pick a book and smell it and read it.
I'm with you. And like 80% of my sales are Kindle, and I am with you. I like the old school, turn the pages, Yeah.
So I'm over. You answered the question about the Autumn Falls, because I did want to know how you got involved in that series and that. But,
okay.
If your book was to be made into a movie, I kind of like your first one better than the second one, because it's a young girl, then who would you see playing your main character?
I don't really watch TV anymore. But yeah, I thought of that too. I would love to see 75 Miles made into a movie. I've always said out of the two books, I think that would be the one, because I don't know. There's just not enough out there for young adults, especially positive stuff. And she becomes kind of a hero in the end. She's, I tried to make her realistic and design her after both of my daughters, but she goes from being crazy about a boy and going to break up with a boy to all of a sudden she has to defend herself and stay alive. And I don't know who I would have play her. I guess I'm not familiar enough with current actresses, but
yeah. You have two daughters and one son. Is that what you have?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. How I know we live in a little town, and how did they manage, or did they living in the hills or did they have any problems of like wanting to get into a bigger city? I mean, growing up, teenagers can be really.
No,
I had these foreign exchange students come over, and they're coming in from like Amsterdam or Berlin or something, and they go nuts because we have one cab called a cab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've always lived in small towns, so they're easygoing. The oldest one, she's like in high school. She's 21 now, but she was in high school, always into like drama and speech and stuff like that. So she and working, all my kids started working at 14. And then like the youngest two kids, they're like me and their dad. They are so excited for summer to get on their dirt bikes and hit the trails and do the outdoor stuff. My middle daughter likes to go fishing, and they find stuff to do. I think when you grow up in a small town, I don't know, you're easier to entertain maybe, you know?
Yeah. You find something, everybody there, and there's a mother that is always willing to throw something together to get the kids busy.
Yeah.
Not to sit around and to do things.
Yeah, they all really do like it here. My oldest, you know, she's been on her own for a couple of years, and I think she'll probably stick around here, and she has a good, sorry about my dog.
All right.
She's a good job. And yeah, I think they all three really like it here, especially in the summer. Like I said, winters get long, but those summers, man, we have a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I also like what you mentioned about your bucket list. I am all for bucket lists. I mean, I'm a little bit older than the two of you. And I just, Ruth knows because she's seen the video and whatever. In November, I just did my top of my bucket list. I jumped out of an airplane 10,000 feet.
Yay, cool. That's so cool. Did you tandem or did you go solo?
Tandem. Oh no, cool. Tandem. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, yet. I did tandem probably about 15 years ago. I don't know if you live in Washington too, but we did it. My husband and I did it in Washington State, and man, was that cool! Up seeing Mount Rainier and Puget Sound and the Olympic Peninsula. Man, it was amazing. Where do you live, Paula?
I'm near Buffalo, New York. I'm in outskirts of Buffalo, New York. But my grandson, when he was 12 years old, I took him parasailing.
Oh,
cool. And he said, Grandma, let's do it again. I says, nah, maybe when you're older. And he goes, we'll jump out of a plane. I go, okay, when you're older, we'll jump out of a plane. He turned 20 this year, and he lives down in Florida. And so for Thanksgiving, I went down there and I made all the arrangements. And I said, guess what? We're jumping out of a plane. He said, Grandma, you're 12 years old and you're going to hold me to that? Yep. And I go, yes.
Did you love it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I just loved it. I was looking for freedom, but I felt peace.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy and so quiet.
And you just at it all. And I told him, don't close your eyes. You only get a first once.
Yeah.
First out the door, first free fall, first gliding. It's once. And
yeah.
So now what is your big bucket list? Or I call adventures. I do call them adventures.
You know, most of mine are checked off now. I want to learn Spanish. My husband and I are actually talking about moving to Mexico. And so I need to learn Spanish. And I guess that would be a big bucket list thing for me, is living in a foreign country. But the other one that's been on my list for some time that I need to tackle is I want to try a trip alone. I was in Scotland a few years ago, and I met this gal from Washington State, from Longview, Washington, and she was traveling alone for 3 weeks in Scotland. And we got into this very deep conversation, and basically she just said she likes to travel alone because she can do whatever she wants, when she wants. If she gets sick of something, she can go do something else. And she goes, if I get lonely, I go to a pub and I have a beer and I meet people. So I don't know, that sounded really attractive to me. So I'd like to try it someday.
I did it, but not alone. I went alone for me, and for me, I never been on a plane. I never been on a train, and you just show up in Europe and you're there. Yeah. And I started up in I started in Sweden and worked all my way down to Germany and into Netherlands and Belgium, Italy. But I had an advantage is at each of those places, we had 13 exchange students live with us through the years. Okay. And so I had one boy put me on the train, another boy taking me off the train. I still got lost. I still couldn't understand the languages. I was crying through Germany because I couldn't understand what they were saying. And but it was an adventure I will never, ever forget.
That inspires me to go do that now. That is really cool.
Yeah. Now, on my list is to do a month, but up in your end of the area, just see if I could live on my own.
Yeah.
In a cabin in the woods. I mean, something to that effect. That's on my list.
You know where to find me. I can hook you up, girl.
Okay.
Yeah, find me on social media. And if you have any questions at all about this area, or I've lived in a number of places around the country, you let me know. I'll help you.
All right, thank you. Well, I'm looking forward to reading your book. I've never heard of that the writing style before, and that was new to me. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a book, not a tape.
Cool. I would love for you to read them, both of them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you, Paula.
Well, man, I'm sure that you two have so much in common. It was great to just be able to hear this conversation. And so that's what I love about this format is getting to connect other people with my guests. So it's not just me. I love that. I'm really enjoying that. So great conversation. I learned a lot about both of you. I know a lot of things about Paula, but I still learned some things about her. So it's pretty awesome.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Yes, I can agree with you. Winters are too long. I'm in northern Minnesota, about 100 miles from the Canadian boundary water and canoe and wilderness. So yesterday Tuesday and Wednesday, we had 6 inches of snow, and now 40. So it's fine, but it doesn't give up. It does not give. No.
About this time of year, it gets really old, doesn't it?
Yep. But where would we get your books? And do you have a website?
I do have a website. It's www.robynvandersys.com.
Oh.
Yeah. And then most of my sales are on Amazon, of course. And then if you're in the Black Hills, there's several stores around the Black Hills where you could buy it too. But Amazon is for now the only place online.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll be sure in the show notes when I post this, I'll be sure to put all of your information there for.
Oh, cool.
So that'd be good.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for your time. This has been really interesting.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I lose power quite a bit. I live very remote. My closest neighbor, it's a 10-mile radius, and I live alone out here.
Wow.
In the middle of the swamp. It's actually an island in the swamp. So.
Oh wow! So you can teach me quite a bit.
I might be able to.
Cool. That's amazing.
I might be able to.
Yeah, she I was just gonna say she might be a good contact for you when you're researching your next novel. You might reach out to her and say, "Hey."
Yeah, because I kind of write in a man's world. I mean, there's some females, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of females in the genre, but most of the guys that write in this group of post-apocalyptic or whatever, there's a lot of military, there's a lot of the survival stuff, and I'm like, I don't know that much. So I write more of a story than digging in too deep into how you would survive, but man, I can always learn something.
There you go. All right. And I was going to say, I love the fact that you have so much local support. I think that is so great because nowadays, I'll be honest, I didn't even think that existed much anymore, that there were local shops. When you were talking about going to the airport and getting your books in at the airport shops and various areas all around the Black Hills, I think that is phenomenal. I love hearing that.
Yeah. So they're pretty proud. The people around here are very proud of the Black Hills and to live here. Granted, it's a lot quieter in the winter. All the business pretty much comes between May and September. But yeah, we really love our hills, and people are pretty darn loyal to anybody that's in the Black Hills, anybody that's trying to be a small business owner or an author or whatever. They've been awesome. They've been great to me for sure.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And so are you going to write a book that's based in Washington State?
I don't know. Maybe. Everyone's always bugging me for more, and I'm like, I need to write my sequel to 75 Miles because that's the one that I left it a little abrupt.
Yeah.
With the girl, and then after that, I don't know. I'll probably write at least one more for the October Fall series. My brother-in-law is a Border Patrol agent in Arizona, and so him and I have talked about maybe co-authoring one together about what it would look like on the border with this event. I don't know. I have a weird sci-fi idea in my head I may tackle someday. I don't know.
Oh, I like that. Well, I was also wondering, so a lot of my listeners are very when it comes to content, they want it to be relatively clean. A lot of my, my readers, a lot of my listeners, not readers, a lot of my listeners, I should say. And so can you speak to your books as far as the content? What are, is it
clean?
It is clean. Okay. I just was curious. Not that it's a big deal for me, but that's good for my listeners.
No, I guess I write like a book. If my pastor read it, would I be embarrassed? Like, you know, and so I've got a few cuss words in my books here and there. No F-bombs or anything like that. Definitely no taking the Lord's name in vain, but there's a few cuss words that would be pretty realistic in those situations, but I try to keep them clean. I've had a 10-year-old read 75 miles. And so I've got kids. I definitely keep them clean. Oh, that's not too gory or anything, you know.
Oh, that's good to know. That's because I have a harder time reading a book when it's really gory in description. I mean, I'll be honest, that's what will sometimes turn me off. Or if it's 20 pages of a sex scene, that's another thing that will turn me off.
Yeah. I'm all about the action. And so like, my thing is just diving right into the action. And I don't do the sex thing. Like I said, if my pastor read it or my nieces or nephews, would I be embarrassed to have them, or would I tell them don't read that? So I want it to be, you know, for anybody to read it. So that's always been my goal.
And one of my audience members who can't come on and ask a question, but her name's Timmy, and she said that she's going to recommend your book to her teenage daughter. So that's good. That's good. And Timmy is in England, so
super cool. That's awesome.
So there you go. Timmy's a good one to have on your side. She's another one of my super supportive virtual audience members, and she's great. And so
that's cool.
So well, that's all good to know. I'm glad I asked that question because that might get some more people interested in wanting to read. So now you are you're all about the outdoors and adventure and all that. And I was glad to hear you talk about your bucket list and things you still wanted to do. What place in this world would you like to visit that you've not visited?
Everywhere. It's funny. I was getting my hair done this morning, and I had an older lady in the chair next to me, and she and I had an awesome conversation. She's traveled the world. She has seen, and she's done solo trips too. She was a really cool lady. And I said, when I grow up, I want to be you. But I don't know. We were just talking about this morning. I really would love to see Mongolia, and more of Europe, I guess. I want to go everywhere.
Yeah.
I just need money and time.
Well, yeah. So we need that. We need 75 miles to become a movie, like a blockbuster movie, so that you can then get all this money and you'll be there you go.
My husband and I always said if we ever won the lottery, we wouldn't build a giant house somewhere. We would buy like condos or houses all around the world, or even just a couple places and then just travel all the time. You know, there's just so much to see out there. So many cool people to meet. But yeah, right now God has me here in Spearfish, South Dakota, and we like this too. So,
well, I love the fact that it seems like you're going like everywhere you go, you're talking with people. I love to hear that because you don't always hear that, especially in this day and age. Everybody's tied into their phones, and it's like you go somewhere, and I'm not saying that there's anything negative about social media. Well, there is negativity, but I'm not saying it's all there is. There is. I know better, but it's not all negative. There's a lot of positivity because after all, we wouldn't be having this chat if it weren't for social media and the internet and all that. But I love the fact that you're having these genuine conversations with people, as I've heard you talk about it many times, how you'll go out and, I had this chat with this person, I was talking with this person, I was talking with this lady, and I love that you are interacting with people all over the world. And when you're out and about, you're not just keeping to yourself.
That is impossible for me. My husband laughs at me all the time. He's like, you can't go anywhere and like not talk to people. I learned that from my grandparents and my dad. It's funny because my grandparents growing up in Whatcom County, Washington, nobody was a stranger, right? Everywhere they went, they'd be like, well, who are you? What are you doing? You know, I guess I learned that from a young age. I love to talk to people, and everybody's got a cool story. You just have to get them out of their comfort zone enough to tell you.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. I'm glad that I asked that I said that, because you're really, I love that you said that. It might make us think, because I used to be one who kept very much to myself. Like I wouldn't talk to anybody. I had this idea that, oh, nobody wants to hear from me. Nobody, and that's changed over the past couple of years, but but I love that. I love that you do that.
I'm just seeing the chat log down here for the first time.
Oh, that's I try to keep an eye on it too, because sometimes people will say something and that sometimes has led to some interesting conversations. So if you had to give one piece of advice, I know we've kind of touched on this, but just to wrap things up, for anybody who is wanting to be a writer, they maybe they just have they want to write a book, what would be your top piece of advice to them?
It's the same thing that I tell everybody that I meet when I do book events, gun shows, whatever, right? Just tell your story. That piece of advice was given to me by my first publisher. Tell your story, get it out there, and you can worry about the editing, you can worry about the research, you can worry about sales, all that junk you can worry about later. Just tell your story. And I don't know. I love encouraging people to write. It's just, like I said, I'm not some amazing writer. I just have stories to tell, and everybody has a story to tell. Mm-hmm. The difference is, do you have the desire to tell it or not? Do you have the desire to write it down? And if you do, in my mind, you're already a writer, right? So get out that laptop or pen and paper like Paula likes to do, and just write stuff down and share it with even just one person. And that's really it. Just tell your story. It's not that complicated.
Robyn, that's just perfect advice. Thank you so much for that. That could very well be the best writing advice I've ever heard, honestly.
It's the best I ever heard, for sure. It simplified things for me, right? So
exactly. So, well, I just want to thank you, Robyn. This has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you for your time. And if the audience members, Esther, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to thank her. I found it very refreshing. And then I did some research, and I'm dying to read the book.
Yay! Look at that. Cool. I love it. Thanks for all of you guys too for coming on and hanging out with us. It's been really fun.
Yeah, and if you guys want to unmute, feel free. That if you want to express your appreciation to Robyn, feel free to unmute and go for it.
Good luck on your next book.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to read your book too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Robyn, and have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. All right. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to read some apocalyptic fiction, aren't you? And who else would you want to read but Robyn VanDerSys? I mean, please. The woman is so much fun. She writes in such a way that it's not about blood and gore, but it's action and so many fun stories, and it's appropriate for everybody. It's not like you're going to be reading something and worry that, oh no, I don't want my daughter or son or my grandmother to read this. So I'm super excited that I'm able to highlight her work, to bring her to you, my wonderful listeners and viewers. We had some fantastic people who were in the virtual audience and asked some of the most amazing questions. That is the strength of this. And I really, really appreciate every one of you. I hope that lots of you will be able to come on. Please join the Facebook group. But going back to Robyn, before I forget, yes, in the show notes, there will be all the information so you can follow her, buy her books, you can learn more about her. She has been busy even since we spoke, so you've got some new things to look into. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate, review, follow. I'd be so appreciative. If you are watching on YouTube, thumbs up, subscribe. I love it. I want to get to the point where we can get lots more people seeing these people. Remember, it's not about me. It's about my guests and my virtual audience. I'm just here to facilitate. I'm here to bring this kind of content to you, and that's what I want. So tell your friends. Feel free to let me know what you think. Feel free to give suggestions. I feel like I'm starting to understand how to do this a bit better. And you're going to see these episodes pop up a lot more frequently because I'm finally getting myself on a schedule. So thank you guys for your patience. It's been almost a year now. It's getting there. And I feel like I've learned a whole lot this year. So thank you guys so much for your support. So no matter where you are in this world, have a beautiful, amazing day. Go do something for you. Don't wait. Do it for you. Don't care what anybody else thinks. And God bless you. And I will see you on a future episode of Media from the Heart. Bye for now.